Welcome to the Writer Reads Flash Fiction, episode 21. If you're liking this series, please hit like. If you want to see more, please hit subscribe. Today's story comes from one of my favorite settings, the Pixie Dust setting, which is kind of like a urban fantasy policing sort of mix-up. But without further ado, I'm welcoming you to Cinnamon Pixies and Bridge Trolls. Cinnamon and sugar, the best pixie bait ever. The warm, sweet scent of French toast made me stop. There's nothing suspicious about French toast, and when it's 2:30 in the morning, I guess it really could be an insomniac. I looked around, noting the tall pines, the dull white of the bridge over the culvert, the longish grass, and the wall of bushes by the path. I suppose it could be a homeless insomniac. But with the two houses alongside, fenced and still in darkness, I didn't think so. I looked again, moving back into deep shadow. Pixie poachers didn't discriminate when it came to shooting intruders. I noted the dull oblong shapes of boxes nestled in the grass, lots of square-edged mounds, their flat tops reflecting the occasional moonbeam filtering through the trees, and I thumbed the beeper, summoning reinforcements. No way was this a one-man job. Whoever had laid this many traps would be waiting somewhere nearby. All I had to do was stay out of sight until the unit came, steel myself not to respond when the first glimmering pixie came humming out from under the bridge. There was another, and I bit back a cry of warning. It looked like these guys had hit the jackpot. A whole tribe had been lured out through the portal. Cinnamon and sugar. I watched as one by one the pixie lights each descended to a gleaming flat top and vanished inside. I don't know what it is about sweetened cinnamon, but pixies find it too good to resist. The dust runners were going to make a killing. As the last box snapped shut, I heard an engine start up. Smart. They must have rigged an alarm to go when they'd made their harvest. I saw half a dozen pixie lights hanging back near the bridge. With each closed door, the smell of cinnamon and sugar had diminished. Now it existed only in tantalizing puffs. I watched as a white van rolled quietly out of a cul-de-sac and drove along the bike path. It stopped 2 meters from my hiding place, not quite obscuring the view as the driver turned off the engine and slid from the cab. He was followed by 3 others, all in black. They headed out under the pines and started collecting the boxes. A harsh jangle came from the bridge, a pixie protest, ignored by the men working swiftly and quietly to load boxes into the back of the van. If backup didn't arrive soon, I was going to have to get involved. When I counted 4 boxes remaining, I unclipped the holster strap, bunching my legs beneath me and preparing to move. The runners were preparing to move too, picking up the last boxes and ripping out the stakes that had chained them to the earth. I adjusted my grip on the 44 and clicked off the safety. It's amazing how far such a small sound can travel in the dark. I ducked my head, hiding my face in the sleeve of my coat as torchlight arced over my hiding place but failed to penetrate the leaves. There was silence, and I glanced up in time to see the 4 men exchange glances and carefully placed the pixie traps on the ground. Reaching under their jackets, they pulled out automatic weapons with short, stubby, machine gun-like profiles. I was just about to dive for cover behind the van when a thunderous roar split the darkness. The pixie lights by the bridge vanished, and the men turned as one. When the roar came a second time, I did make a dive for the van, but not for cover. I was banking that the dust runners had left their keys inside. Otherwise, I was royally screwed. The roar, the bridge, the sudden fetid stench of air boiling out from the shadows near the culvert, all added up to one thing: trolls. And trolls don't hunt alone, not even the big ones. I imagined I could hear squeals coming from the long grass as I clawed my way across the van's front seat and slid behind the wheel. I groped under the dashboard, locking the door beside me as my other hand closed around the keys. I turned them, stamping down where the clutch should have been. No clutch. In half panic, I yanked the shifter into drive and hit the gas. Half a k down the bike path, I remembered to release the handbrake. That kind of burning smell is hard to ignore. In the back, I heard boxes sliding around, cursed at not remembering, cursed again when I heard something hit the side of the vehicle, and then had to concentrate on keeping the van upright as I found another entry to the bike path. There was another cul-de-sac, and I took a hard right to get through, glad they hadn't blocked it off like the others. I tried to remember the streets around here, knowing I had to keep driving until dawn. When the chopper swung overhead and the sun lamp arced down, I was ridiculously glad we'd decided to keep the troll patrol. It had cost us, but without them, I concentrated on driving. By now, the techs overhead would have identified my chip. I drove as fast as I could, followed the squad car that swerved out in front of me until we drove headlong into the impound yard. It didn't take us long to get the boxes out of the back and haul the sleeping Pixies into the squad greenhouse. The Druidess was none too pleased. Those boxes had been made of iron, and the bread had been laced with violets, a Pixie soporific. Prepare them right, and you could dull the flavour enough for the cinnamon to mask it. 3 days, the Druidess snarled. Now get out. We went, making a note to buy her 3 of the Belgian chocolates she loved so much. We were going to need her help with repatriation.